Hi everyone, I'm MaryAnn. I'm a visual artist and voice coach from Singapore, currently in Singapore, and welcome to another installment of my weekly vlog series, Live Your Dream. So this is where I share whatever it is that I'm learning in my journey so far as an artist, as a voice coach, as a person who's all about creating and living and pursuing a worthy and meaningful purpose for myself and doing whatever it is that really calls to me and whatever that I'm really passionate about. And I'm here to share what I've learned in this journey in the hopes that it can also help you as you go about your journey as well. So if you want to create a life around something that is meaningful for you, something that really matters to you, it's not an easy journey, as I know firsthand what it's really like, and I want to share whatever I'm learning so far in the hopes that it could inspire you or encourage you or motivate you to keep going wherever you're at in your journey and at whichever point you are in your journey as well. There are different challenges along the way. So yeah, so this is where I share whatever I'm learning so that at the very least you know that you are not alone in your journey, because every single week you're going to hear from me sharing something that I have been learning recently in my journey so far. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comments, or you can also directly message me through any one of my social media links, which are in the write-ups attached to these videos. So currently it is July 2021, which means that we are at the middle point of the year. And for some places, the middle of the year, there tends to be a little bit of like a mid-year slump. And I would say for some places, because if you live in the northern hemisphere, this is the time where it's probably, you're going into your summer vacation at this point in time. So you may not really experience a slump because it might be like, vacation time for you and like holidays and stuff. But if you are like in Singapore where, tropical all year round, where the climate doesn't really change that much, where our identifier for like when the year starts and when the year ends is usually like January year starts, December year ends. Then if you're working on something over that entire year, that middle of the year point is kind of where you start to experience a little bit of a slump. And this is not so much like tied to the calendar, this is tied to anything that you are pursuing in your life. Whenever we reach the middle point of the journey, that's usually one of the places where we feel the most resistance. Because it's like, you get there and it's like, oh man, I'm only halfway through, and it's like, I still have halfway more to go. And it's at a point where when you turn around and look back, you'll see that you've only come halfway. And, and then there's still like the same amount of distance to go in front of you. And it's kind of like, you're not really here and not really there. And it's kind of, it's not too late to turn back, but yet at the same time, there's still like so much more to go. And so sometimes it's natural to feel a little bit confused, a little bit stuck as to what you're supposed to do next. But I will tell you what you're supposed to do next. What you're supposed to do next is you're supposed to keep pushing on and keep moving ahead and keep pushing through those resistances. Because anytime you feel and experience resistance in whatever it is you're working on, that's the time all the more that you need to hang on and hang in there and like just find some way to get past those resistances. Like double down your efforts, really push yourself to keep going at it and keep working at it, because in a way it's like kind of a test, almost as if the universe is like testing us to see whether this is something that you really 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 want. Because the people who give up at this point in the journey, they're usually they're obviously the ones that don't make it past this stage, and then they don't actually get to the end of that journey. And the middle point is not the only time where you're going to encounter resistances. There are many different points along the way in the journey where you will face a lot of obstacles and resistance as well. And each one of them is slightly different from the rest. But the key thing here is that you got to find a way to double down your efforts and just keep pushing through no matter what. And no matter how difficult it is, just find a way to keep yourself going. And one of the things that I find really challenging in keeping myself going is when I don't have an external motivating factor to hold me accountable. So this is where it also gets especially difficult, because when it's something that you're pursuing for yourself, that's not related to like your day job, not related to something that you have promised someone else, it gets all the more difficult, because the only thing that we can rely on then is our own internal sense of motivation to like keep going, and whatever that value it is that you want to get from that experience, it's a very internal thing. It's not something that, I mean, you can do all ways and means to put it into your external world, like, draw a picture of your vision, where you would like to get to down the road, write it out so that you can read it every single day. But those things can only go so far. And when we hit these points of resistance in our journey, it's like, sometimes even these external motivating factors which you have created for yourself, like your vision board or writing out your goals and reading them, isn't really enough. And this is where I like to make things a little bit more interesting for myself and kind of like, drive it up like a few hundred notches so that I have no choice but to push through whatever this resistance is and make something out of it and make something happen. And one of the things that I like to do when it comes to this is to create an external deadline for myself. So to give you an example, I have been for the past few months trying to create a new series of work. So there's been like, a certain idea that has been coming to me, a certain character that has been coming to me in my mind and in my sketches, and it feels like it could develop into a whole series of work. And actually it did already start developing as a series years ago, but I kind of didn't continue it, and now it's kind of come back to like haunt me. So it's time to really buckle down and just, express whatever it needs to be expressed in that area. But of course, being an artist, like most other artists out there, we are our own worst critic. And part of the creative process sometimes is that we have to be okay with not making with making a mess of things and with not getting things right on the first try. Although the perfectionist in me is like, kind of expecting me to make sure that whatever it is that I create has to be perfect, like from the first try. So that makes it even more difficult for me, because for the past few months I've been focusing more on making sure that I actually do even go into the studio to work on something. But now I'm starting to feel like it's getting a little bit slow, because I didn't really want to set myself like a KPI, to say that like I must finish a certain number of paintings by a certain date. But now I realize that maybe this KPI needs to be in place, and maybe I need to like really, bring it up to the next level. And and so I decided that I was going to do a 100-day daily art project, which means every single day I'm going to complete one drawing that's not really big, but the whole purpose of this is to get the ideas out and to get myself going into exploring what this series could potentially be. And a daily art project like this works for me, because if I leave an artwork, a drawing, a painting, whatever it is, if I leave it unfinished for too long, I would never finish it. So setting myself the goal of actually completing one artwork every single day is kind of the point for me, because if I don't finish it, I never get to the end of it, right? So every single day, finish a new one, share it on Instagram, and that is my external deadline and external motivating factor that would allow me to get through this slump that I have been experiencing at this, for the last few weeks, especially when it comes to creating this new series of works. So whatever it is that you are experiencing in your journey, if things are going great for you at this point in time, then great, just ride the momentum and keep it up and keep it going. But if you're starting to feel like, what am I doing this for? I don't see the point of this, I don't feel like I'm going anywhere. I feel like, I should just quit now before I waste any more time and energy and effort in this. And all these are the valid things that we tell ourselves. Every single one of us tells ourselves this to some extent. The key thing here is to double down your efforts, push through whatever that resistance is. Also do take some time to be aware that what you're experiencing is related to your resistance, because our resistances are very sneaky, and sometimes they come across like, I'm just tired, I have so many other things to do, and we would make excuses to allow ourselves to not do the thing that we really want to do. So find some way to create an external motivating factor to ensure that you stay on track in your journey. It could be having someone hold you accountable. It could be getting together with a few friends and hey, let's work on some, our own goals together, and we hold each other accountable. It could be like me, using social media as a way to hold myself accountable by creating a 100-day drawing project. So whatever it is, keep going at it. I'm here in the meantime, and if you have any questions, you can always ask me in the comments or chat with me through my social media links. And if you have enjoyed this video, subscribe to my channel on YouTube, and I will see you next week.